So transfer deadline day has happened. The window slammed shut on Thursday evening. Some big deals, some big loan deals coming back in at certain football clubs. Jake, it was an interesting window to say the least. A bit of a boring one at the top, but League One clubs a lot strengthened, a couple weakened. A couple stabilised, I think, as well, and brought players in that they might have needed to for a promotion or a bid towards safety. What was your thoughts on the window and obviously a busy transfer deadline day yesterday evening?
Yeah, I thought it was a good window. I think I think Paul Warne actually described it really well in his pre-match press conference today or Friday as we record it. He said that because of the sanctions to Everton and Nottingham Forest, Premier League clubs have been a little bit more reluctant to do any business, and when they ultimately just refuse to do any business, that then has a knock-on effect on Championship and then League One and League Two. And I think you've sort of seen that with quite a quiet window, to be honest, Ben. Still, though, lots of really good deals, lots of clubs picking up some good signings, players moving up the pyramid, players moving down. I think it's fascinating. It's often a market to correct any mistakes that you made during the summer, and I think a lot of clubs on paper have certainly done enough, I think, to rectify what they've done previously. So yeah, looking forward to seeing how it pans out.
If I was to ask you for your predictions from, say, this time last week, I think a month ago is too much because we've had 4, 5, 6 games of football to be played. Points at the bottom have, opened up and the gap at the top has closened in. But if I was to ask you a week ago or even 2 days ago before this deadline day, would your predictions change in certain areas?
Yes, I think they probably would.
I think so for me as well.
It's honestly having seeing some of the players that clubs bring in, and the stuff, the ability that these players have, it will effectively change their season. I think of the likes of Mo Issa gone in at Exeter. I think he's going to have a really good impact there. You look at Collins at Bolton, some good signings at the top end as well. Yeah, I think it would absolutely impact where I say teams are going to finish. Right, yes, Ben. So I've made this tier list, like I say earlier today, and I've decided to go for 5 categories. So you've got, starting from the top, you've got A-star business. This is a category for the clubs that we think have done some immaculate transfer business this month. That'll do nicely. Still pretty positive. You've got then decent. Have you seen the Joe Hart thing at Wembley? That's what I
That was
went for there.
decent. Tell him, lad.
Tell man, decent. And then we won't mention the other person in that video. Meh, pretty underwhelming, pretty uninspiring, and then honking that it's just genuinely horrific what they've done and who they've brought in and let go. So those are your 5 categories. Should we start with a pretty familiar football club?
Let's go on with it. We're not going to go too long on for each club. We're going to try and give each club similar amounts of time. So now this video will try and be under 45 minutes, but no one knows it'll be an hour and a half. Fleetwood, from my perception then, I think it would go down as decent. I say that. They've got rid of players that don't want to be at the football club. The likes of Jack Marriott, Josh Earl has gone for a fee. Has gone to a decent football club as well. He would have gone for free at the end of the window as well. I think that they've got rid of Scott Robertson, who didn't want to be at the football club. Obviously, Kabongo Shamanga has been sent back as well. That he didn't really work out for him. Josh Vela, another one that wasn't a great impact around the changing room. They brought in some young lads as well. Yesterday, Finley Potter's come in. We brought a young lad in on loan from Samuels from Brighton. We've managed to bring in Campbell from Everton as well. These are unknown, so we can't go that'll do nicely because we don't know them. But they've got good pedigree at a youth level. And also the new long-term deals for Junior Katerna and Brendan Wiradu. So for me, overall, I think it's been a decent window for Fleetwood. I think they've got rid of players that they didn't really want to be at the football club that might have been, honking the change room out a bit. Maybe not have brought as good players back in, but the players that are coming back in are going to be raring to go. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm sort of torn between decent and meh, to be honest, Ben. I completely take on your point that they've got rid of some big players like Jack Marriott, Josh Earl, etc. However, I look at the list of players that have come in, and are they going to be enough? Because the objective of this transfer window for Fleetwood, Ben, and you'll agree with this, is
Mm,
to keep Fleetwood in Sky Bet League One. And
mm,
for me, the list of players that you've brought in are almost like you're resigning to Sky Bet League Two. I
yeah.
don't think, obviously, they are unknown, so we have to be careful about saying things like that. But I don't know how well these players are going to take the step into this league. I think, a lot of them, like, for example, the lad Potter from Sheffield United, he's brought in on an 18-month contract. So they're clearly doing a bit of pre-planning. I think it reminds me, Ben, if you can remember when Doncaster got relegated and they brought in a load of players on 18-month deals. I think they brought in Ollie Younger from Sunderland, Jonathan
Mm.
Mitchell was another one, Rio Griffiths was another one. Um, it sort of strikes me as that sort of transfer window. Look, I'm willing to give you decent because I think it's Fleetwood, but for me, I'd be looking at. I'm really sort of torn between these two.
And that one argument for decent, Junior Caterna and Brendan Wood are getting long-term
Okay, yeah,
deals.
we'll put you in decent.
I
Yeah,
also think as well, they've kept
yeah,
Phoenix Patterson as well.
okay.
And the players that have gone, none of them are shocks. None of them are big losses in my eyes as well. And, we've also managed to, keep that young core of players. So I think decent has to be one.
Yeah, towards the bottom end of decent, I think.
Yeah. I think Carlisle as well, they brought experience in. Obviously, that they've had money this window. They brought, I think, George Kelly in last night, Josh
Yeah,
Vela, are
Jack
good
Diamond.
signings, and the players that they brought in, are good players, and they did a lot. I think at the start of the window, didn't they? They brought Armstrong in, who I think he was announced a couple of weeks before the actual, window opened as well, and they have improved. I think the likes of, I think Edmondson left the football club, the big one Moxon leaving the football club. I think that I think they brought better players in than Fleetwood, but they've lost one of the best players in the division this season in Moxon. I don't know. I probably would go decent because we maybe expected him to move on, but meh because you've lost your best player, and it seems that they've gone out and just bought players that have looked good at this division before. I don't know about you.
For me, I think Carlisle have to go in decent because you look at what Carlisle was struggling with in the first half of the season was goal scoring, and they've brought in, Luke Armstrong, centre forward, who's bagged in the level below. Georgie Kelly, who, let's not forget his incredible record that he had in Ireland. He also scored that goal, didn't he, for Rotherham that essentially sealed promotion. They've brought in the likes of Jack Diamond, who's done it at this level before with Lincoln. And then you've added a bit of toughness in midfield with Josh Vela. You'll have your opinions on him. They needed to replace a goalkeeper. Harry Lewis is a really good signing. He's probably the standout keeper from the division below. Harrison Neal had a bit of an indifferent time, I think, at Stevenage. But you look at what he did for Barrow the season before in League Two. Pretty nifty player. Sean Graham is someone we don't know a lot about. Josh Emmanuel as well was a free pickup. I think that was before the window, but they've included it here on transfer marks. They've lost a couple. I agree with you. Just regards, Moxon obviously spoke to a Carlisle fan the other day. He didn't think he was having as good a season as he was last year, but still, it's a massive loss for them. Joe Garner going to Oldham and Ryan Edmondson leaving for Australia provide 2 losses in that attacking area. But I think they've completely filled them, and I think they've got different options now up front. Georgie Kelly is that sort of mobile, big lad. Luke Armstrong is that big, tall lad, and then Jack Diamond can stretch games. So for me, Ben, I think we've got to put them in decent, mate.
Yeah, agree.
Mm-hmm.
Matty Taylor coming in for 6 months, yes. As an 18-month deal, yes.
2.5
2.5 year
years, isn't it?
deal at 33. That is a honking decision. Joe Nuttall coming in on loan. I think he scored 2 goals in the National League this year. Again, don't understand it. Josh Harrop is a decent signing, if fit, but he's not been fit enough for long enough as well. I think they brought Andy Smith in as well. I know they were close to one more. But for me, I just go to honking that, and I think they've resigned to League Two. I think a bit like Fleetwood, although when you've got Darryl Clark and you've improved as much as you did, I think the recruitment at Cheltenham does need to improve, long term.
I think it's difficult with Cheltenham because on paper you can say that the signings look really bad, but when you consider a lot of these players that he's brought in have already played under him before, so they're coming into an environment that they will feel familiar with and they'll feel like they can get the best out of. Like, obviously, Matty Taylor played under Darryl Clark at Port Vale. Kinsella was under Clark at Walsall. Obviously, we mentioned Pet. He might not count here, but he's played under Darryl Clark as well. So they've brought in some experience, which I think they needed. You have to look at their front line. They had Will Goodwin, they had Rob Street, George Lloyd, all sort of at the start of their Football League careers. So I think that was really, really good. Andy Smith is someone that I know that was linked to the move to Lincoln in the summer. He's somebody that I know could cut it at this level. So I was quite excited to see him coming in. But for me, Ben, I think I'm sticking in Met at the moment. But obviously, Cheltenham have the potential. These players have the potential, like I say, having worked under Darryl Clark, still to keep them up, even though it is a meh window. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I'm going to stick it. I think we should stick them in here. Ben, agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next club, Reading. I think that maybe meh again. I know they lost Nelson Abbey. Tom Holmes remains at the football club, which is big. Nibs remains at the football club, big. Sam Smith, Charlie Savage. So they kept the four, Lewis Wing. They kept the power four, power five that they signed in one batch in the summer where there was no really restrictions, and they signed before the restrictions came in. Burton's an experienced goalkeeper. Not been great this season, but they've kept an experienced name. I know they've lost Nelson Abbey, which is a big loss for them. McIntyre as well has gone to Portsmouth. I think Guinness Walker's left the football club, gone to Stevenage on loan. It's tough. It's tough to judge Reading because what they're in. I would probably go meh because it could have gone an awfully lot worse.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think from a Reading point of view, yesterday was purely about who they could keep a hold of, and they've kept a hold of all their assets. Really, you think about it. Apart from the young lads, obviously, Caelan Vickers going on to Brighton, Nelson Abbey going to Olympiacos. Like you mentioned, Tom Holmes and Tom McIntyre making moves as well. It is important to stress, Ben, they do have Tom Holmes coming back for the rest of the season, so that was a good bit of business for them. Zayn Monlouis, the lad from Arsenal, he was the under-21s captain, made a lot of appearances in Premier League 2 this year. I think he'll bring a bit of a surety and replace Nelson Abbey at the back. I'm sort of torn because I think keeping a hold of those players when they're in the situation that they're in provides a decent window, Ben, because they've not lost their big players.
No.
They've kept Smith, they've kept Nibs, they've kept Wing.
They were never going to add. They were never going to add, were they? Too much.
No, they never were going to be able to. But I think from a point of view where they're keeping their assets, I think for me it's got to go in decent purely because like I say, they've kept their assets. They've added a couple. It's a lot. It's a bit of a shame to lose some of the younger and brighter players, but they've got their experienced lads, and it's going to be those experienced lads. If they're going to get themselves out of trouble, it's going to be them that do it. So for me, Ben, I would argue to stick it in decent for Reading.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to Port Vale now. So we play Port Vale.
You do play Port Vale?
Yeah, I would go as far to say on Port Vale that Dan Gore coming in on loan is a great signing. On loan from Man United, and they've got these connections. They did bring in Reece Williams, who unfortunately had to go back and got injured. I think Casper Lopater has come in from Barnsley. I think we talked about him in the summer one, didn't we? Where he came in, was it from Woking? In the National League as well. Jensen Weir coming in, didn't really prove it at Blackpool. And then Alex Mighton coming in, very, very good signing, exciting player that can get, fans off the seat as well. I think it's a very, very good window, and they've improved the team, and they've added what they needed to. They've shored up the defence. They've got goal scorers now. They've got a midfield, full of a bit of Stern. Sorry, what do you think, Jake?
Now, in terms of incomings, I think I would put them in that'll do nicely, but a transfer window is not all about incomings, it is also about outgoings. And I know this isn't Port Vale's fault, so I feel a little bit cheeky saying this. Obviously, Alfie Devine, Ollie Arblaster were two massive cogs in the Port Vale wheel this season in that middle midfield, and they've lost both of them. And I know this isn't Port Vale's fault, and I think they've replaced them very adequately. I think Port Vale are at the top of this decent category and pushing to get into that'll do nicely. I like the links of the loanees, taking players off Premier League clubs, Brighton, Forest, and Man United, and then also trusted by Liverpool as well. It's a shame for Reece Williams how it's panned out. They needed a centre back, a big bulky centre back. Lapata is that big bruiser, if you will. So for me, I think Port Vale have to go in at the top end of decent.
Yeah, I agree. So far, Port Vale, Carlisle, Reading, Fleetwood, all in decent. Cheltenham, meh. I think that probably I'd actually order it like that so far in terms of decent. Fleetwood, bottom, Reading next, Carlisle next, and then Port Vale. So we play Port Vale. Next up is Wycombe. Now, they've managed to bring in the likes of Bez Labala, the likes of Matt Butcher late on in the window as well. Richard Coney, obviously eligible to play now. So I think that we can call that kind of a late kind of signing for them. Ken Campbell coming in as well. I think that, that's good as well. Saxon Early coming in as well. Good signings. I think they've improved. I think decent again. I think it would be pushing that next barrier instead of going down to meh. Look, they've lost Lyle Taylor, but he never really proved anything there. They haven't really lost too many key players. I know I think Richard Keogh left the football club earlier on in the window, but again, Longwick as well, come in as well. I would go decent, I think, Jay. What about you?
Difficult, isn't it, for Wycombe? Because if you think about this Wycombe side, we were earmarking them at the start of the season to really go on and trouble the top six, and we're talking about them, and they're the sixth club into working our way up from the bottom of the table, and we're at the end of January. So I think that's already on the group of players that are already there. You look at the names that they brought in: Matt Butcher, Bez Labala, Kone, Longwick, Campbell, Saxon Early, and Kuda. Am I inspired by that list of players? Not massively. For me, Ben, if you are wanting to stick them in decent, I think they're below Fleetwood. Well, otherwise, I think they're in this meh category. I'm not inspired by the business. I don't. There's not one bit of business that makes me, sort of prick my ears up and go, "Wow, how Wycombe signed him? Like, what's he doing turning up at Wycombe? He's far too good for them." Butcher hasn't had a load of minutes at Argyle this year. Longvite went back to Wolves. He's not been playing a lot of football. Chem Campbell was in and out under Michael Appleton. Saxon Early, again, not played a lot of football. Bez Labala, probably the best pickup of the lot. I will concede decent, but I think they're right at the bottom of it.
Yeah, I think I've got to agree. So there's
Okay.
5 in decent. I don't think it will continue like that. Charlton then, yet again, in another window, have sacked another manager, but the business has still been good. The likes of Connor Coventry has come in for a big fee. Macaulay Gillespie has come in, again, good signing. The likes of Lewis Ward, Romani Edwards-Green has all come in as well. Florini has come in, that I think Jake will know a lot about. Freddie Ladapo has come in. They are good signings, but it almost feels like they're piling lots of good players together and not really thinking of a system and not really thinking of a long-term plan. As terms of players, it would be probably that'll do nicely, but I think because are these players suited to the way that Charlton want to play? I don't think even though Charlton know how they want to play, I don't think even the players know what to play at the way. And the games that they're winning or that they're playing well in, they're playing well because they're good at football and not because there's a good recruitment and philosophy there, Jake.
Yeah. For me, it just screams we're panicking. Because obviously everyone knows they went in for JCH. McAntony was very clear on that on his podcast, and it didn't work out. So they ended up with a second choice, and from that moment on, the moment they got rejected by the Clark Harris, it just seemed that it was all just really rushed. Connor Coventry, Gillespie, Romani Edwards-Green, all pretty good players, but are they going to work as a unit? I quite like Kane Ramsey coming in from Harrogate. He's an athletic right back, right wing back. Fiorini, Ladapo, Backinson. They've done it at this level, but they've done it in much better teams, I think, than this Charlton side, especially Ladapo. I think he scored 15 goals for Ipswich last time he was at this level, but he's not going to be the main man at Charlton with Alfie May. For me, given in the fact they've sacked Appleton, they might be about to appoint Nathan Jones. We don't quite know. for me, it screams a little bit meh. It's not well thought out. You've got clubs in this league, Ben, who we'll come on to later, that have a clear recruitment plan and have a clear strategy for how they want to recruit. For me, Charlton are the complete opposite of that, which for me would put it in meh. What are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I think because of the recruitment plan issues, I think it's got to go there. But the players are. I think if they had a manager in place and Nathan Jones was signing these players and they were,
A lot
they
better.
weren't as messy as they were on the pitch,
Yeah.
I think it would go into decent.
Agree.
We'll go to Burton Albion now, who I think have actually had quite a decent window.
Yep.
Kyle Hudlin come in as well. Jonathan Lecco came in and then left about 5 minutes later. It's like that meme of, where he goes and gets his coat and points up the coat hanger and gets it back on again and goes out. Antoine Hackfield again, who's Sheffield United as well. Tojibola has come in as well on loan from Rotherham. Joe Hugill, really impressed me against Derby. I think he got a goal and assist when he came off the bench. Charlie Lakeland as well.
What about Ola Adebomi, mate? Did you ignored him?
Yeah. I waited for you to say that. Obviously, they managed to get rid of some players that kind of didn't really fit the football club. I think Walker went out, didn't he, as well? Barry Labal, obviously, they wanted to keep. I don't think they've improved. I don't think they've got weak. I think they've added a few nice gems that will get them through to the end of the season. You look at the window, well, they brought 5 in on loan. 5 in on loan, obviously, because Lecco doesn't count. There's no long-term philosophy there, but the good players for now. And I think that between meh and decent. I don't want to put everyone in decent.
I think there would be a really good category around here, wouldn't there, for these guys? I think they would be a slot in there. For me, I can see what you mean. For the impact, and this is very obviously shown a lot of recency bias, the impact that Joe Hugill sort of made in his short time at the football club tells me he's going to be a really good signing. I can tell you more this weekend about him as we play them. But Ademola, Ola, Adebomi, and it is someone that I know, Jack Hancock. If you don't follow him, make sure you go and follow him on Twitter. He's a great content creator. He's coming from Palace. Recently signed a new deal at Palace and has gone out on loan. He's scored a lot of goals in Premier League too. Hudlin, 6'9", mate. You know what Burton are going to be doing with him up front, don't you? They're not going to be playing short. I think Patterson's been backed, and for me, Ben, personally, I would stick them in decent, and it is only just, but I think we've got to, considering they've also shipped out, Labala, who was. If we're saying that some Fleetwood players had attitude problems and it was good to get them off the books, I think it's good for Labala to be kept off the books. Clearly, there was a bit of an issue with him there. Cole Stockton wasn't playing the football he would have wanted. Good to get him out of the football club. Gordon and Walker as well. Get them loans in the division below. Get them scoring goals, hopefully to come back next season. For me, mate, I think I'd stick them in decent, but only just.
Yeah, agree with that. Cambridge United quickly now. I think that they've brought 3 decent players in. Gibbons, the right back from Bristol Rovers. Macaulay Bonne came in and Lyle Taylor came in. They've improved the strike force. You've got 2 strikers. Macaulay Bonne, Harris has worked with before. Gibbons is a good, side. Neil Harris has labelled him as a warrior, a winner, a fighter. And for me, I think it's decent. Again, I don't think that they pulled up any trees, but I don't think they need to. I think Lyle Taylor at 33 is a good signing for the short term and will score enough goals to keep Cambridge in League One.
Yeah, I agree. I think Lyle Taylor is clearly the pick of the bunch for Cambridge. Had a good decent debut, didn't he, Ben, in the game against Fleetwood as well. Really good centre forward, lots of experience, and you have to remember, Ben, that Lyle Taylor and Macaulay Bonne played up front together in the Championship for Charlton and registered, I think it was nearly 30 goals, goal contributions between them. So that tells you the sort of calibre. For Macaulay Bonne, it's maybe not gone his way in the last couple of years, moved to Gillingham. I think he's had went back to Charlton and it ended up pretty sourly there. Gibbons hasn't played a lot of football. At Bristol Rovers, obviously coming in from Port Vale, he wasn't given a fair crack of the whip by Joey Barton, and it seems he's certainly not in Matty Taylor's plans. Maybe from a Cambridge point of view, I know he's out of contract in the summer. They might be looking at sort of loaning him in before they want to commit to a longer term contract. But for me, Cambridge are I think they've added and they are stronger than what they went into the window. So for me, I'm going to stick them in decent.
I know. Hopefully, we have a few in that'll do nice. I think that'll be coming very, very soon. Shrewsbury then have decent window. Roland Idawoo coming from Waterford. Jack Hinchey's coming from Brighton's under-21s. They managed to get Tom Bloxham back into the football club after his loan spell at Morecambe. Aaron Perrier came in October time as well. They've lost, obviously, the winger that went to Blackpool. I think, was it Finnegan? Who was on loan, I think, from Southampton. Elliot Thorpe has gone back to Luton. I don't know.
I think, Ben, this is our first. This is our first one in our bottom category for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think it's that bad because I don't think they needed to improve too much. I think it's meh. I think bottom is too harsh. I think they've got a new manager coming, so I think that's improved them. I think this window has been a decent window, and I don't think they need too much. I think that they can reset in the summer. I think meh.
The reason, Ben, that I would put them in honking is because clearly Shrewsbury needed offensive reinforcements this window. They'd only scored, what was it? Is it maybe 18 goals they've scored? I haven't got the exact figure in front of me. But they've not scored enough goals. And whilst they are higher up in the table, you can't sustain scoring so minimalistic goals and coming out with the points return that they have. For me, you wanted to see Shrewsbury go and bring in maybe 2-3 attackers. I know they were linked with Fraser from Wolves, Nathan Fraser. They were linked with this Ola Adebomi that's gone to Burton. Didn't get any of those over the line because they got rid of Matt Taylor. The lad from Brighton, I'm not too sure. I think it's his first senior loan in the Football League. That we all know how first loans can go. And then the lad from Waterford, I haven't really been impressed with any of the lads that have come over from Waterford for Shrewsbury so far this year. I just think they needed to do a lot more, Ben, which is the only reason I just think it absolutely honks. I'm quite strong on this one, Ben. I think if they wanted to get to 20 points a lot quicker than they could potentially do, I think they needed to bring in some wide attackers. They needed to bring in a different profile of centre forward. You'd say that Dan Udoh and Ryan Bowman are not too dissimilar in this fact that they prefer to play their back to goal and hold the ball up and bring the likes of Perry and Shipley and Bayliss into play. I also think they could have done with a couple of fullbacks. Mal Benning is getting on a little bit. They've had to play Morgan Feeney at right back on the weekend. I really don't like Shrewsbury recruitment, Ben. I'm really not a fan of it, and I'm pretty adamant that they've got to go into honking for me. And if we get flack for it, Ben, I'm more than happy to take it. But for me,
I'll give it you. I can see your points. I'll give it you.
They've not done enough for me. Shrewsbury have to go in that bottom category.
There you are. I'll give you that. So Exeter then have gone on a bit of a purple patch during January, and the likes of Ben Purrington coming into the football club. They brought Mo Asa into the football club, which I think is good signings. Luke Harris came on quite earlier on in the window as well. Ryan Woods as well. Decent window. I think they've strengthened. I think that they've got some attacking options now. They were linked with Aaron Presley, didn't quite get the job done. I'm interested to see where you're at this stage because, Jake, I don't think they've improved the squad overall, but I think it's a slight improvement on what they had. They've got a few more options now, a few more experience options as well. What we thinking?
I quite like Exeter and what they've done, and they lost Ryan Trevitt. They needed to bring in a couple of midfielders. And for me, Bristol Rovers fans will say that it wasn't great there, but I thought Ryan Woods is a really good signing. He's done it at this level before. And at the level above. He's a really good progressive midfielder. I also really like Moisa, like you say. We've seen him at this level before for MK Dons score hatfuls of goals. Luke Harris is one that I actually really like coming out of the Fulham Academy. He's someone that comes with a lot of praise. You know, you compare it to a young lad from Fulham that we've got to talk about later for Leighton Orient. I think this is the real sort of one of the crowns in the Fulham in the Fulham jewels. So for me, I think you're looking at top end of decent, similar sort of window to Port Vale. For me, they've seen that they needed to score a few more goals, and you know they've added attacking players in Harris, Moisa, Ali, the lad from Halifax, who's having a good year down in the National League, and Ryan Woods will progressively get them higher up the pitch. So for me, I think they have to go in decent.
Yeah, agree with this. I think the next club we may disagree on, Wigan Athletic.
Yes.
Now, they've lost Callum Lang and Charlie White late last night.
Yes.
You know, big losses. You know, there's a couple of the young lads out on loan. A couple of the loan signings went back.
Mhm.
The signings of Charlie Good is a good signing, some can say. You know, Luke Chambers coming in, don't know too much about him. Charlie Kelman burst onto the scene for Southend, had loan spells at Gillingham, QPR, and I think he had a spell at Leighton Orient as well last season. Look, for me, losing Callum Lang, I think was always going to happen. I think he needed to leave the football club. And Charlie White was on big money. So they've got the biggest two earners at the football club. In a season where I don't think it's going to happen anything for Wigan, which is a good season. I think anywhere between 10th and 15th is a good season for Wigan. They've done really well. They managed to get big earners off the books that were there before the new ownership was put in place, and they can go again in January, in the summer, and reset. They've already kind of slowly got rid of the players that maybe are on the bigger books, then they can spend it elsewhere. I actually think this is a decent window for Wigan. Losing Lang is gutting. I don't think Charlie White's a too big of a loss, if I'm honest with you, in terms of what they're getting for the wages. I'd honestly go as far to say it's been a decent window for Wigan Athletic.
Yeah, I'm in one peg below you. I'm in the meh category for Wigan. Look, Callum Lang is a massive loss, and we've seen the impact that he's made at Portsmouth, and we'll get on to them later. He is a massive cog again. Charlie White, while you say he might not be playing as much, I think he's still, you know, to add that experience around such a young group, I think was really important for Sean Maloney off the pitch. The players that they brought in, Luke Chambers, he's come from Liverpool. Charlie Good's a good signing. Really like Charlie Good. Obviously, he did really well at Northampton to get that move up. Had a loan at Sheffield United as well. And Charlie Kelman, again, that would sort of have me down here. But you're pretty bullish on Wigan, Ben. You're half a Wigan fan. So I'm going to agree with you. I think we'll stick them in the bottom end of decent.
I'm not, by the way. It's just a little in-joke. So far, Port Vale, Exeter, Carlisle, Reading, Fleetwood, Wycombe, Burton, Cambridge, Wigan all occupied decent. Charlton and Cheltenham occupy meh, and honking that, Shrewsbury Town honk. I think they're going to say we've got a Shrewsbury Town agenda. We haven't. We just expect good things from Shrewsbury. So Lincoln City then got some reinforcements in the January transfer window. The likes of Joe Taylor, Freddie Draper returned to the football club. Jack Moylan also joined. Conor McGrandles also rejoined the football club after a successful period back with him a couple of years ago before his move down to Charlton. Back at the football club now. I think Lincoln had a good window. I don't think it's in the top two. I think it's decent. I don't think they've pulled any trees, but they've done what they needed to do to improve their side to end this poor run, which I still think they're playing quite decent in. House proud Jake with us now.
Yeah. Difficult window to judge, really. Look, in terms of the incomings, Joe Taylor is probably the best of which. I think he's been brilliant since coming in. You've seen that in performances against Derby and Peterborough. Freddie Draper, again, really good, did really well down at Walsall. He had to be recorded. He was fantastic. And he's, again, come in, stepped up. It's hard to forget he's only 19 years old. McGrandles, we did need experience in midfield to play, behind Ethan Errahan and Ethan Hamilton. So it only made sense for him to be Scottish. I think it's a good signing. I think you look at a year ago, he joined Cambridge on loan, had a pretty good impact and helped them stay up. So I was pretty upset about that last night, but I've sort of come around to it and think it's maybe a bit more of a better signing. Obviously, he knows the club, he knows the people, he knows the fans, so he already has that relationship with us. Yeah, no, I think, and then obviously the lad that came in, this afternoon as we record, Ben, the lad from Ipswich, don't know a lot about him. He's been playing in the National League, and the club described him as a project player, so he won't be someone that we see impacting the first team maybe this season or next season, but maybe the year after that. So for me, I think it's been a decent window. I've not been enamoured with it. I thought we were maybe going to try and get a couple players that I specifically wanted have gone elsewhere in the pyramid. So I'm sort of tempted to stick as sort of around Cambridge, and we, in this sort of gap here, I don't think it's been great for us personally.
Yeah, agree with you there. Bristol Rovers, I'll come back to you for you to start off there. Been a bit of a quiet window, but they brought the lad in from Conte. I think it is Camille Conte.
Great player.
From Grimsby, which is a very, very good signing. Harry Vaughan from Hull. Hull obviously signed a lot of players from above, so letting a lot of the good players go. A lad on loan from Aguilera, I think, from Nottingham Forest. Ethan Baggett, great signing as well. My pronunciation isn't the greatest, that's why I'm giving
Aguilera, Ben.
Aguilera.
Yeah, I actually think Bristol Rovers are our first team into That'll Do Nicely category, Ben. Camille Conte is a player that, whilst he played for that fishy lot down the road at Grimsby, he's clearly got a lot of potential. I think he's a player that could comfortably, in maybe 5-6 years, be playing Premier League football. He's got the physical attributes to do so. Harry Vaughan is someone that comes with a lot of promise from Hull City. He's rapid. He's played a lot of football for them in the Championship over the recent years. Brandon Aguilera is another one off the Forest conveyor belt. I think they produce a lot of good talent. Nottingham Forest, there's a couple that have come through and made it into the first team recently. You think of the likes of Brennan Johnson. He could be another one in that mould. Elkin Baggett got experience at this level before with Cheltenham. It only makes sense for him to come back after playing in the Asian Cup to get some more minutes in a side that are trying to be competitive around the middle of the table. They have lost. Obviously, James Belshaw went out to Harrogate. But for me, I really like what they've done. I'm a really big fan. Obviously, yes, they've lost Aaron Collins, but I think you have to think that Bristol Rovers have banked that money and they're going to improve themselves in the summer, which is a much easier window to recruit, Ben. So for me, I think they go in the second category of That'll Do Nicely.
There we are. Leighton...
We agreeing on that? We agree with that?
Agree.
Yeah.
Leighton Orient now. Again, a bit of a quiet window for them. Obviously, Brandon Cooper still at the football club. Karen Edwards coming from Arsenal, I think it is as well. O'Neill from Fulham. Decent window. Obviously, they lost a couple, last night. I don't think Leighton Orient needed much, if I'm honest with you. I think that's the biggest compliment we could pay to them, in my eyes. I think we should put them in around, I'd just say meh, if I'm honest with you. I don't think they needed to do anything decent. I just think meh would have suited them this year.
Yeah, I think so. Cooper coming back massive. I think Ollie O'Neill is a player that I spoke about with Harris at Exeter is a real baller coming out of Fulham. Kane Edwards as well coming in from Arsenal late last night with Daniel Adu Adjei. I think they're two young players that clearly haven't had experience in first team football before, but you'd imagine, coming from those two clubs, they'll have a lot of good physical attributes, and they're only 20 and 18 years of age. Leighton Orient for me would go in there. I think they've had a good window, but I just think that if they wanted, they could have got out and improved themselves a little bit more, especially defensively. So for me, I think I'm going to stick them in there with you, Ben.
Yeah, absolutely. So Northampton are the same, because we're getting towards that part where these two teams came up last year. Again, not lost anyone. The ones that they brought in, Lewis Molden from Wolves, Tony Springett from Norwich. Don't think it really needs much of an explanation, really. I think that, again, and that deserves the biggest, credit to Northampton, really.
Yeah, I suspect the only sort of part that you could maybe suggest they move up a bracket would be the fact that they've kept Mark Lemon. He was rumoured to be moving on to the Championship, but Brighton have trusted John Brady and his coaching staff to look after his development. So I think from that point of view, it's a good window, but still incoming's lacking at Northampton this summer. So for me, winter. So I'm going to go for meh with you, mate.
Absolutely. So Blackpool now, big fan of Blackpool's window. George Briers, I think that has knotted it up a level in my eyes as well. Finnegan, great signing as well. Obviously, the business in the summer was really good. They've got rid of players that wasn't really going to play. Jensen Weir, Tash and Oakley Booth, that they signed close together, that have gone on to, obviously Oakley Booth gone to Portugal and Jensen Weir's gone to Port Vale. They've managed to keep Jordan Rhodes. I think that deserves the second tier as it is. They managed to get the likes of Dom Thompson out of the building as well. Rob Apter signed a new deal this window as well. Dembele's still at the football club as well. They've strengthened the squad. Kyle Joseph is fit now. And you go through the squad, I think it's a good squad. I think it's stronger, than the squad that 3 years ago when they went up. I think they had a better individual players then, like Elliot Embleton, Ellis Sims, Jerry Yates, those types of players. But I think this squad has improved over the last 31 days. And for me, I would put definitely, and that'll do nicely, they brought a midfield player in. They've brought, they've kept the strikers, they've kept the star players. They managed to add defensively as well, add a winger in Finnegan as well. And they brought some in on loan, some permanent. I'm very, very impressed with Blackpool's window.
Yeah, I think it's the George Briers deal that sort of tips them into that, top end of decent to lower end of that will do nicely. You didn't mention Ben Hayden Coulson coming in from Middlesbrough. I think he's been a good addition. He's played a lot of football for Middlesbrough in the Championship over the last sort of 3 or 4 years. So I think he's been a good addition. Dan Sassy, someone coming in from Burnley we don't know a great deal about. And Finnegan didn't play a lot of football for Shrewsbury, but is only 20 and is coming through Southampton. And Southampton is renowned for one of the best academies within British football. So I think you have to give him his credit there. But the George Briers is the one that stands out, keeping Jordan Rhodes as well. Allowing Dembele to stay as well. They're just sort of picking up a bit of momentum at the minute, Blackpool. I'm going to agree with you and stick them in. That will do nicely.
Absolutely. So 2 in that'll do nicely in Bristol Rovers and Blackpool. Decent, Port Vale, Exeter, Carlisle, Reading, Fleetwood, Wycombe, Burton, Lincoln City, Cambridge United and Wigan Athletic. In merit, just the 4 teams make up that list. In Charlton, Cheltenham, Leyton Orient, Northampton, honking that, Shrewsbury Town. Going into the last, part of it. This is where it's make or break for these 7 clubs. So we'll go Stevenage. Again, not much business like Northampton and Leyton Orient, but the 3 that they've done that are big loans are Craig McGilvery, who is an experienced goalkeeper. Obviously, it's very weird when MK Dons have loaned a lot of players this window up to League One. I think that tells you everything you need to know about their squad last year, that it was too good to go down some of it. Nestor Guinness-Walker came from Metropolitan Police in the National League, and then went to Wimbledon, prove his worth there, went to Reading, never really got his, an opportunity too often and struggled when he did get that opportunity. And Verdane Oliver as well. And I think it's a really, really good window. Verdane Oliver will add something. He's a Steve Evans type of player. Played with him at Gillingham as well. I think he's big and I think decent for me. I think that they've not had to do much, but they've added, a defender, a striker, and a goalkeeper to what is already a very good squad.
Yeah, I think Stevenage have a real chance of finishing in the top 6, Ben, which is why the business they've done underwhelms me a little bit. McGillivray adds a little bit of experience into that goalkeeping unit. Nestor Guinness-Walker not played a great amount of football with Reading or at Wimbledon. And then Verdane Oliver's mainly been playing in the division below, likewise with McGillivray. So for me, I'm really uninspired. I think Stevenage could have done a lot more. I know they are, in terms of budgets, maybe not the biggest, but, they have a pull now. They are trying to get into the top 6 in Sky Bet League One. You'd think that maybe they'd utilise their loan connections a little bit better, having borrowed players off Man City, etc. before. So for me, I'm a little bit underwhelmed. I'm a little disappointed that they've not done more. But I think that completely suits the Stevenage narrative, that the clubs that we're about to talk about have done a lot better than them. But for me, I'm sort of really underwhelmed with what they've done. I don't know if you can, I don't know if I can convince you to come down a layer with me, but
Yeah, potentially, but I think you've got to look at budget, and I think that you've got to be realistic in for players that they are going to use. And you know, the goalkeeper has been in successful squads before with Portsmouth. I think Neskin's Walker is a decent loan signing, and I think Verdane Oliver will add something that they might not already have, and they've got some good forward line, with BGR, Big Goal Reedy, the press Presley, and now Verdane Oliver with Robertson behind. I don't think they needed too much. I don't think they needed to go out and spend over too much. So I don't think it's better than Charlton, Northampton.
I'll
I
stick
think
them in decent. I'll stick them
yeah.
in decent for you. Down the bottom of decent though. Sorry, Farley. Do apologise.
So Oxford United's window is something that I call as saucy. I really do think it's been a saucy window for Oxford United. Jay Matete coming into the building late last night, adding to that a player that I know a lot about, dancing with the ball, can get it on the half shoulder, can get his team moving, box to box, quite quick, quite agile, can get a tackle and can get a couple of goals as well. They brought Jamie Cumming in as well, who seems that might have ended his spell. They might need another emergency goalkeeper there. Kyle Edwards coming in permanently is a great sign. Will Goodwin for a good fee. He's only 21, scored 7 or 8 goals this season. Scored 5 or 6 for Torquay last season as well. And I've got better. The outgoings, losing the goalkeeper, was a big loss in James Beagle, because I thought he was one of the the best goalkeepers in the league last year as well. Other than that, losing Stanley Mills is a big of a blow, but I think Tyler Burry coming in to replace, I'd honestly will go that will do nicely. They brought a striker in, brought a midfielder in, brought Owen Dale in, a winger as well, and Des Buckingham has finally got his players into the building. I think they spent money, they spent good wages. I would think that will have to be the minimum. That will do nicely.
I'm thinking we have our first A-star business contender here, Ben.
It's very close because it's better than Bristol Rovers and Blackpool.
Yeah, for me, what tips it is the signing of Jay Matete. I think he's absolutely fantastic. He's got promotions on his CV before with Sunderland, with Plymouth Argyle last season. You look also what they brought in. Jamie Cumming has played a big part of a team getting to the playoffs as well. For me, I think the business they've done is excellent. Sorry, Ben, I just had a text. I think their business has been second to none. It shows that they've backed Des. They're bringing Owen Dale. I think is a wide player that can certainly, if he sorts out his attitude problems that he had earlier in his career and gets his head down, I think he's going to be a really astute signing. For me, Ben, I think they're better than Bristol Rovers and Blackpool. I'm going to stick them in A-star.
Yeah, agree with you. Very, very, impressed. Also very impressed with Barnsley. Josh Earl, left side centre half, 3.5-year deal. As a left centre half, I don't think you'll get many better in this division, especially the way Barnsley play. It just suits him. Good football club, big football club at this level as well. Play a back three, play to his strengths. He can come out and command the ball, can win headers, and I think he'll really thrive at that football club because it's a good football club, with good supporters. And I like Neil Collins. I think he's done well. They brought in Donovan Pearce as well. They've got a free transfer as well. They've not really had to do much. They did a lot of business late on. I know there was a couple of bids for certain players out. Callum Styles, he lost. I don't think he wanted to be at the football club, so I don't think it's a too bad business. I think adding Josh Hill, I think, is a very, very good piece of business as it is and decent as it is. Did they really need to add anything else? I think the squad was already stacked. Maybe another attacking player could have got him into the one above, but I'd probably go between decent and that will do nice. Probably decent because of the lack of business.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I'm sort of up with the Port Vale sort of placement in decent. I think they're probably going to slot in probably here. For me, I think they've had a really, really good window. Pines is a US international, Ben, that's going to come in and add some experience to the back line. Josh Earl, someone that is a Rolls Royce of a defender and will improve this Barnsley side. They kept McAtee, they kept Cole, they've kept Luke O'Connell. So for me, I think you're indecent or pushing up to that'll do very nicely.
Absolutely. Derby County now.
Mhm.
I think they've had a decent window. Max Bird leaving the football club last minute, late last night, crushing blow.
He's coming back.
To,
He's coming back.
yeah, absolutely. But about to say, coming back, getting him back in on loan is huge, and we'll talk about that in certain other football club that are coming up as well. And that'll probably, if they lost Max Bird, they'll probably be. Wouldn't be honking that, but it'd be very meh. It really would, because you've lost the heart in midfield. You cannot lose your key players in January. Abu Adams has come in, big fan. CBT, Corey Blackett-Taylor adds something that they've already got in Mendes Lang, but on the other side, some Barkus can maybe come in behind the strike as a number 10 type of player, where I think he's better at. I think he did well for Preston there, did well for Morecambe there, as a 22, 23-year-old as well. Erin Cashin today signed a new deal, as we're speaking, the day after the window till 2027. So they kept him as well. They kept the experienced players at that football club. I think it's make or bust this year. They have to go up with that squad because it's an aging squad. Paul Ward, if he doesn't go up this year, I think he may leave the football club. They have to go up, but I think that will do nicely because of the business that they've done in retaining Max Bird. I don't know about you. They didn't do much, but they've done enough.
Yeah, I think they're towards the bottom end of decent, Ben. I think everybody knows that Derby were trying to sign a striker yesterday and they didn't get it over the line. I think the Max Bird deal is a bit of a crusher, but they've been able to get a fee for him and also been able to use him until the end of his contract. So essentially, they've almost cheated the system there by getting a fee for a player and having him come back, instantly, before they would have lost him for free if he hadn't. I also think that Corey Blackett-Taylor, very good addition. Abu Adams was a real star in that Forest Green team that got promoted a couple of years ago out of League Two. If they'd signed a striker, I think we'd be looking at that will do nicely. If they'd have signed a Lee Gregory or a Michael Smith, then I think you have to put them in that category, but they haven't. So for me, I'm flirting with meh, decent, but I'm going to err on the side of caution with Derby fans. I know how they can be, so I think we should sit them in decent.
Absolutely. Now, think we're going to be split here. I think that I would go as far to say that'll do nicely up towards A-star business, and Peter haven't really signed anyone. They signed a lad from Brighton's B Academy, Jay. Do you know who he is?
Do you mean Brentford?
Brentford, yeah, sorry. Brentford B. Come on, what's he called?
You talk. I haven't got his name in front of me.
Olakibwe, I think it is. Michael Olakibwe. I've got it down as. They brought in Jed Steer back into the football club. Left on Monday, back in on Wednesday.
3 signings and 2 of them were Jed Steer.
Yeah, exactly. I think he came back into the football club. I think he's done well for them. They lost PK.
Olakibwe, mate. Olakibwe.
Yeah, I got it right. I got it right. And they brought obviously Kibwe and Jed Steer back into the football club. But my main thought with them, they've kept the whole squad. They've not lost anyone. PK they lost. Couldn't do anything about that. They knew they were going to lose. If they would have got a right back, I'd put them in A-star business. If they'd have brought PK back, I think they would have done the best business in that league if they'd have brought him back. And he was so good for them. They've kept Ronnie Edwards, they've kept Knight, they've kept Joe Randall, they've kept Collins, they've kept Mason Clark, who has gone but has been straight loan back. Poku, Ricky J. Jones. Clark Harris is still at the football club, so maybe does he come back into the frame, which I think he will, because he adds goals, and you'd be stupid not to put him at least on the bench, and he'll want to put himself to get the best move in the summer, to get the wages that he wants. I do think that he should have gone before now, because you look at, Madison, where he had offers, from, decent clubs and didn't get quite as offered as well after that. I'd go, if I'm honest with you, mate, because of what they've kept, that'll do nicely. They've kept, Ronnie Edwards, kept all the front four. I don't think, other than adding a right back, they could have had a better window.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think getting Mason Clark back for the remainder of the season is big. They wouldn't have wanted to have lost him yesterday, but I said this to Pepe Lacey, Portsmouth fan yesterday, that it's such a Coventry deal. They're just so good at recruitment. They get 9 hits out of 10, and they've brought in Mason Clark, who will no doubt be a hit for them next season in the Championship, or maybe even the Premier League. That's how good of a player he is. I agree with you. I think they're at the top end of that. Will do nicely for the players that they've kept. There was absolutely interest in their key players in terms of Poku, certainly, obviously Mason Clark, Ronnie Edwards had Premier League interest circling around. And I'm with you in terms of if they'd have just brought Kyoso back, I think it really would have really tied the knot on a really good Peterborough window. But for me, I think we have to stick them in the top of that. Will do nicely.
Absolutely. On to the last two, the big two that I think a lot of people will be viewing. So, hello, Bolton fans. Hello. Talking of Bolton fans, this young man here failed his medical, didn't you, at the Fan Zone podcast?
Yeah.
Our good friends from the Fan Zone podcast who, good team there. And we had it done on deadline day that Jake would be leaving us. Unfortunately, he's come back to the hotel a bit like JCH style, and the Fans Zone podcast. Come on, mate. You need to take him off my hand. But we'll come to Bolton Wanderers now, who they've signed 4 very, very good players, haven't they? In terms of Aaron Collins, who is a goal scorer, hasn't scored too many this year, but still have got enough. Calvin Ramsey from Liverpool. Disappointing, really, because the last right back they had on loan from Liverpool, turned out to be, just a little bit good, didn't he? He wasn't too good, but Conor Bradley was superb, and you're seeing that now. He's smashing up in the Premier League, and they're like, proud mums and dads, all 25,000 you get at home, and it's so good to see. Caleb Taylor, I actually think that he's such a good signing. It really is. And he says a lot that he's probably the weakest of the lot in terms of names, but he's a really good signing. Jake had him in his draft team last season as well. Nathaniel Ogbita's come in as well. He's a very, very good signing. They've added midfield experience. Ogbita is 22, but still a very, very good player. Aaron Collins is 26. Calvin Ramsey 20. Caleb Taylor 21. The January transfer window for Bolton in the last 3 years has been phenomenal, hasn't it? And yet again, Ian Everett, super white army, smashed it out the bag. It has to go in A-star business.
Yeah, I was just about to do this, Ben, before if you can see that I have just chucked them in A-star business. I don't think anybody else in the league, for me, Bolton have done the best business out of every single League One club this season, both in the summer window and in the winter window. You look at what they've brought in. Collins, League One Player of the Year last year. Yes, he didn't hit the heights second half of last season, but that first half of the season, he was magic. Bristol Rovers fans will tell you that. Ogbeta came in and helped get Posh over the line into the playoffs last season as well. He's a really good player. He was, we can't forget, Ben, how good he was at Shrewsbury before he got his move to Swansea as well. Really balanced on that left-hand side. And to be honest, whilst they've had lads out, at the Asian Cup for Australia, I think they're returning back after today because they've got beat by Korea. But that was a real void that needed filling on the left-hand side. And I think he adds, quality with Zach Ashraf on that left-hand side as well. I think that Caleb Taylor is phenomenal. Like I say, he's probably one of the best top 5 defenders in the league last year, and he played for Cheltenham, and that said it all. And they had issues with relegation. He's so calm on the ball. He's a real ball progressor. I think that now that they've got Rico Santos out for a couple of games, he's going to step in and almost have it be no drop in quality at all. Different type of centre-back, though, that I think will work for them. And then Calvin Ramsey, Ben, a couple of days before he signed for Bolton, was going to Leeds on loan, and Leeds are looking to get into the Premier League and probably could finish in that second spot in the Championship. So for Bolton to acquire him, I think it just shows you the quality work that they did with Conor Bradley last year. You see how he's getting on at Liverpool now, scored against Chelsea. They clearly trust Ian Everett and the staff at Bolton to develop Calvin Ramsey in a way that they feel they will need him to return to Liverpool for. So for me, mate, I don't think anyone gets better than Bolton this season. It's been an incredible window, and win the games in hand, they go top of the league. And these players that they're bringing in are only going to strengthen your cause for Bolton winning this league, I think.
Absolutely. Bolton, Oxford, A-star business. That'll do nicely. Peterborough, Bristol Rovers, Blackpool, Portsmouth. Again, lost Robertson due to no fault of their own. Obviously, haven't really weakened the squad. Obviously, Joe Morrell got injured last minute as well, which is a bit of a blow. But Owen Moxon, I do think that deal gets done. I think that it gets done quicker because Joe Morrell gets injured. I think sometimes some things are meant to be, and an injury is never nice happening to anyone. But that injury may have helped them think, right, we need to go and get Owen Moxon now for this football club. Callum Lang is as good a signing as you'll get, fast, pacey. Especially on the right-hand side, that's where I would play him if I was, John Messinio. I think he's got eyes to be as a front man or a number 10. He was terrific when he came on against Oxford on Tuesday night. Tom McIntyre is a nice centre-half as well. I think £75,000 as well. Good fee as well. Miles Harris as well is an absolute dancer. I watched parts of his game back at Port Vale. Dancer. I watched him against Oxford. Dancer. And he excited me. And I'm not even a Portsmouth fan. I think, again, A-star business because they've added in a midfield area, they've added up front, they've added defensively, and I don't think they could have had a better window. If Alex Robertson was still at the football club, it'd be even better. But for me, A-star business, Jake.
Yeah, for me, Portsmouth are going to find themselves up here in A-star business, behind Bolton, but in front of Oxford. For me, some real quality Portsmouth have brought in, and they've had to be patient, but I think you've noticed with January windows, I think Portsmouth have been pretty good at those in the last couple of years as well. You think of Paddy Lane came in a couple of years ago, and they've just gone from strength to strength. Everything looked against Portsmouth coming into the window. Robertson was injured. Regan Poole obviously been out for a while. Colby Bishop, there was a lot of murmurs about whether he was going to be injured. He had a spell on the sidelines, and there was all that drama with cupping his ears to the Fratton end, etc. But they've come out of it probably even stronger. I think Callum Lang's a really good addition on that right-hand side. Look, it's going to probably kill one of my favourites in Anthony Scully, his career at Portsmouth. But for someone that's going to get them up into the Championship, I don't think there are many better right-sided players to do so. Owen Moxon is a fantastic player. He's maybe not had as good a season at Carlisle as Carlisle fans would have wanted, but he's certainly made a mark, and in a better side, you'd expect him to put up some better numbers. Part Harris as well. He looks a real sort of quality player. We've only had a small sample size, obviously, and Tom is very keen on him. But I think Portsmouth have had an excellent window, and they've done enough, I think, to really be in that top two conversation. You think about, you compare it to some of their rivals for the top two in Peterborough and Derby, and for me, they've gone above them in terms of the quality they've brought in. For me, got to be A-star business for Pompey, and let's have our fingers crossed for Tom that it all works out for them come May.
Overall reaction then, Bolton Wanderers, Portsmouth and Oxford all having A-star businesses, although Portsmouth and Oxford losing players to injury and obviously loan recallment. Peterborough, Bristol Rovers and Blackpool all chasing to win promotion and the same aim. Bristol Rovers just a little bit behind that pack, but doing themselves no harm as well. Barnsley, Port Vale, Exeter, Carlisle, Reading, Fleetwood, Wycombe, Burton, Lincoln, Cambridge, Wigan, Stevenage and Derby. A packed out decent window. Shows you the standard of League One this year, that some of them could even make it to that next bracket. Some of them hovering just above that next bracket. In Charlton Athletic, again, could maybe cause a concern for decent, but although the recruitment, again, in terms of the way they want to play. Cheltenham and Leyton Orient also make up Mare, and Northampton, you didn't really need to add anything like Leyton Orient. There's no judgment on that. And Shrewsbury, maybe if they sign a striker and added to it, they could have even been as up towards as decent. That is how close this window. So, Jake, we've been on recording. We've been on here probably an hour and a half, and obviously there'll probably be an hour's worth of content. Thank you for coming on again. I think it's Friday evening now, and it's been 24 hours to really digest the window. And it has been one that has been good for League One, and I can't wait to keep reviewing it, with you in the next few weeks.
Yeah, reluctantly, I've had to come back, mate, with my tail between my legs with my failed move. But Yeah, I suppose we're stuck here, aren't we, for another couple of months? So I'm happy to see out my contract, put in some good performances for you week in week out, and hopefully see myself a move over in the summer. But we'll reassess at that point. But good window for me, Ben. Lots of clubs adding a lot of talent, and makes that playoff race and that automatic promotion race just that little bit more interesting, I think.
Well, this has been a League One transfer review, something a little bit different. We do a lot of different League One content on this channel, League One Live, the Fleetwood vlogs, and this sort of thing as well. And we've got other guests coming on later on in the season as well. And League One content will continue no matter on Fleetwood stance going forward. Please like, please subscribe. That'd be massively appreciated. Until next time, I'll see you later. Jake, any final words, mate?
I need 1 follower for 1,000 follows on Twitter. So if you could come over... I will beg. If you could come over and give me a follow on X, I'd be much appreciated. My handle is down here. Look, but yes, enjoyed it, Nappers. Always loved it.
Thank you so much for watching. I've been Cod Vlogs. He's been Jake Tong. Until next time, I'll see you later. Up the cards, up the scab at League One. Thank you for watching.